What up? Welcome, everybody. We're going to do crazy hand things today, Sean. That's what we're doing.
We're doing
So, anyways,
great start.
welcome to the Pizza Palace. Of course, your boy, Robert Winstanley, with all of his Heat gear. And our friend here, Sean Murphy, with the Detroit Pistons, who we actually have a little bit to talk about with them, which is actually kind of nice.
We do.
To be honest, I feel like they have one of the more quick things that I do kind of want to get into, just barrel right into, which is that, Sean, I feel like, and you can attest to this more because you've been a significantly longer Pistons fan, especially evidenced by my gear that's in the room here.
What?
but it really feels like the front office is not only trying, but also more importantly, they seem to be catering towards the fans in a way that I don't know that I've seen a Detroit team maybe ever really do. And it's been really cool. Like they've been very transparent about like, oh, hey, you guys want the teal jerseys? Well, guess what, motherfuckers? They're back.
Big Sean was like, yeah, I'll bring the teal back in 2023.
Right. And then it's like, oh, you guys missed the going to work red jerseys that are fucking amazing. Well, we're going to make a cool throwback version and likely probably make a more permanent version, which is fucking awesome.
Gosh,
and
I
then
hope so.
Finally, it seems to be almost all but confirmed that the gray jerseys are finally being brought out back like old Yeller and shot.
God, man, those jerseys, holy, they were terrible. My God. Yeah, like, dude, like
they have been haunting us for so long.
Oh my God. Well, it started out like here's the thing that was terrible about it. Because they did the chrome jerseys back in the day. And then they did another gray jersey. And it was immediately we had the worst jerseys in the league once we started with Nike. It's like we have this cool, awesome catalog with extensive history. And we're just like, we're gonna wear gray. Like, why? Like, I get where the
way too often.
I get it's like Motor City, like, oh, motor, like chrome car, like, look, motor. Like, I don't care.
I feel like they did gray and they're like, look at how everyone thinks of Detroit as being this barren, sort of concrete. Yeah. It's like a concrete wasteland that everyone just doesn't give a fuck about, basically. And they're like, let's make a jersey that's just as ugly as the city. And I'm like, bro, we're trying to make the city, shine again. We're trying to make the city cool again, and bring Detroit back. And I was like, y'all are kind of setting us back with this ugly ass jersey.
Well, it's like, if you're gonna suck, like, at least look good while doing it. You know
Real.
What I mean?
I honestly feel similarly with the Lions. They've also had a gray jersey that it looks a lot better on the Lions than it does the Pistons, for sure. But I also don't overly love the gray one that the Lions have. I'm just like, yo, can we go back to like the classic Honolulu blue with the silver pants, the classic white jersey with, honestly, I'd be okay with them doing mostly silver pants for the white tops, but then occasionally doing the blue bottoms, because I do actually like the away with the blue bottoms, but I kind of miss the classic silver bottoms for both home and away. But for Christ, bring back the black jersey, because that's where that shit was, man. The black Lions jersey is awesome.
Dude, it's, oh my God. Like, it's just good to know that, like you said, they listen, they care. They want their fans to be happy, and they actively do everything they can to make that happen. And, just knowing that, the gray unis, like, all jokes aside, they were bad. I didn't like them. I tolerated them. You know what I mean? Like, I even tried to
I think I mentioned this year that I actually was starting to slowly warm up to them on some level, but I think it was just they only looked good if they hit a certain light.
Right.
Where they kind of had like almost like a blue kind of sheen to it almost. It was kind of weird.
They looked kind of cool in person. They looked like dog on TV. And that was the problem. Yeah.
That was definitely part of it.
It just didn't
just feel like,
and it just didn't look good compared to like so many other teams who had such great unis. So good news. I'm excited.
Yeah, if nothing else, I feel like it's one of those deals where like, even if the jersey was, let's just even say that they were good. Let's say it was a good jersey and that overall people liked it, or that they marketed well or something. I don't know, whatever. The fact that they understood that, listen, even if everyone likes it, if our core fan base hates it, then it's got to go. And I like that. I really appreciate that because it's like, and there's no way the national audience liked them, but pretend that they did. It's like they just said, listen, it doesn't matter. Like our fan base wants them gone. So
yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, much like with the Pistons, I feel like it's kind of similar. Like the Heat, I kind of obviously will continue to drill it until it happens that these got to come back permanently on some basis. They don't need to necessarily totally rebrand and do the white jersey at home, the black jersey away, and then the pink and blue alternating, which is what I would love as a dream. They don't necessarily need to do that, but I do feel like it would be cool if the Heat, had their traditional white, red, black, and then, maybe every year they would kind of rotate out one of the vice jerseys consistently or something like that. That would be cool. Because it's easily one of the coolest things that's happened in the NBA in years. And it's just an absolutely unbelievable look. And I feel like the rest of Miami kind of already has this vibe on some level. Like the Marlins kind of a similar look. The Dolphins have teal and all that kind of stuff going on. So it's just like, come on. I mean, what are we doing? Oh, and Inter Miami, their soccer team. So it's like, come on.
Right.
But no, it's so cool when a franchise listens to its fans because it's like it sometimes gets overplayed or whatever and stuff like that, but it is true on some level. Like without the fans, the team is really not much of anything. So it's always cool as a fan when you're just like, holy shit, they're listening. Finally. That's awesome.
Well, and especially, and it doesn't even have to be like big things. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's literally just give us our jersey. Like, you know what I mean?
It's like Jesus, come on.
Like, just give us the thing that looks cool. Like, that's all we ask.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, man, it's a good time to be a Detroit sports fan in general. And it's just like,
it really is.
And just like, I'm just thinking about like what it's going to be like next year with a second overall pick or like whatever, like that, like top lottery pick along with Cade. And those guys are going to be in the teal. And like, that's just, those things make me excited to tune in. So yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we have Cade Cunningham and Chet Holmgren, like it's going to be such an interesting and cool time to be a Detroit fan for sure. And I can't wait to go to those home games.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you just say you're going to be excited for when they have Chet Holmgren?
I'm going to have to be, aren't I, Sean?
I mean, I don't think...
I'm going to have to be. I don't hate him. I feel like that's maybe been somewhat misunderstood is that I do not hate Chet. He's certainly not my first pick.
That's understandable.
And I do have concerns about him, whether they're valid or not, that he could have injury potential. But I'm gonna try to give it a good faith effort and just sort of, if that's where we end up, if we end up with Chet, I'm going to keep an open mind and just say, hey, you know what? I trust this front office. They have done absolutely everything right up to this point. So why would this not be, the same? So, I'll give him a chance like anybody else and hope for the best. And I hope that I love him so much that I'm wearing his jersey. I mean, that's what the goal is.
Yeah, 100%, man. And, it's like, and just again, it's one of those things where you really can't go wrong with almost any of those prospects up towards the top.
For sure.
I know Troy Weaver's a Jabari Smith Jr. guy. And even though I wasn't a big Jabari guy at first, even I'm like, all right, well, even though I know a good amount about basketball and I am confident in how much I know about the game, one thing I never pretend to know it more than a front office executive or just people that do this for a living in general. Like I'm a guy, man. At the end of the day,
unless they work for the Sacramento Kings, then you might.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, that's different. That's someone that literally just doesn't. That's someone that doesn't have brain function.
That's right.
And didn't even know that like basketball was a sport. They're like, wait, what? I thought this was underwater basket weaving.
The guy that wanted to do cherry picking as an offense. Wasn't that him?
That was the owner of the frickin' Sacramento Kings at one point. Was like, I don't understand why we just don't like let them like, we just leave one guy back and then like when we rebound it, we just
throw it to him.
You toss it to him.
It's easily the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
Dude, it is.
I still can't believe that came out of someone's mouth that like actively owns a team.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like when Trump came out to talk about the COVID pandemic, and he was like, "We could use some form of light. Have we considered that?"
Like he just starts throwing out ideas.
Yeah,
like he's
literally just like we're like losing and we're suffering.
Like, is this random thing possible that I just made up on the spot? And everyone's going, And
you're literally just like wedging it out of your ass, like trying to pull it out, like whatever way you can. Yeah, man. It's
so good.
It's insane, dude. But yeah, no, this is Sacramento Kings. Dear God.
You know what is also insane, Sean? To most people.
Oh, I think I know what you're saying. I think I know.
It is the fact that the Brooklyn Nets are no longer with us in the playoffs. I am not only running a victory lab, and I am absolutely happy, and I would love to be swinging a shirt over my head because fuck the Brooklyn Nets, and I'm so happy. But even I, who lost a bet because of this team and actively dislike the team, am completely shocked that it has went this badly.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where, like, you know, even though like literally 71% of NBA general managers going into the season picked this team to win the championship. So they were not only favorited, they were heavily favored.
They were the second highest odds in on FanDuel for like pretty much the whole season and even into the playoffs.
Even up to like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. They had you could not make money betting on them for the championship.
Nope. You could not. And so and now we're in this situation where we just have to ask why. And like, to be honest with you, the answer is really not complicated. First of all, the roster around Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is terrible. It's it's not big enough. They can't defend. They can't really score. I honestly like, outside of like Patty Mills and Seth Curry and Bruce Brown, it's a ton of scrubs. Like, he has Drummond, sure, but like even Drummond, like I remember like during game 3, I remember at one point they were like, "What the hell is Andre doing? Like, just rebound the ball." Like, you know, like that's something that like you always just hear at least once a playoff series. And then like Nicholas Claxton, their other center, he missed 10 free throws in a row, which was like a playoff record, like the most consecutive missed like free throws in a playoff game. Like, there's just so like, you know, even though like they were top heavy in talent, the Boston Celtics, in my opinion, right now should be the favorite along with Golden State. Like, they are
without a doubt. I think that they are. Yes, I would say. I obviously made a very bold prediction that I knew was bold and going out on a limb, that the Grizzlies were going to win the championship. Now, I am significantly less convinced of that, but I was never really, I wanted to be for the meme. I really wanted to be all in, but I knew that was kind of nonsense.
Yeah, especially with how they've struggled against Minnesota. And I think the other thing that's been pretty apparent, I think that what we're seeing right now in the playoffs in general, I think we're seeing a lot of how the game's evolving. Like, even Toronto right now, they were down 3-0 to Philly. Yes. And and as of recording, they will have played last night to see if this will go 7. So this could be totally a moot point by then. But
which is insane, by the way, because correct me if I'm wrong, the Raptors are kind of one of those teams that it's like, how did they make the playoffs? And like, it's just one of these nobody teams that kind of just scraped in and like, who cares?
Well,
like, what the fuck?
They were expected to be a play-in team earlier in the year. They were kind of still in the midst of like their rebuilding and kind of like retooling and developing. They went really young a couple years ago. Obviously, last year they were one of the top picks in the draft. But like, I think one of the things last year, first of all, people forget they played in Tampa the entire year. They didn't even play in their home.
Yes.
So
the Tampa Raptors. That's right.
So they didn't even have like their regular practice facility. They weren't in their home. Like, they were literally misplaced for an entire season. And
kind of like the Blue Jays. They played, I think, 2 seasons in Buffalo.
But you know what they've been doing? They've, towards the end of games and for significant parts of the game, they play a lineup where it's 5 forwards. There's no guards, no centers. Everyone out on the court is at least like 6'7" or 6'8" or longer. And they all can shoot the three. And Pascal Siakam's the main ball handler. And so he'll like run up at the key. He'll be the one pushing and isolating in the paint. And then he'll like swing it out to defenders. And the thing about it, it's the first true positionless lineup we've seen. Yeah. And it's like really working. And like Philly is like really struggling. And another thing, James Harden's playing like absolute buns. Can't score the basketball.
Hey, playoff Harden showed up.
Well, also, Hennessy Harden showed up, and like it's preseason Harden. Like he's a shell of himself physically. He's not athletic. He can't blow by guys. Like he's starting to age, and like he's still a good facilitator. He can still do good things for a team. But like even Joel Embiid after Game 5 said, "Oh well, I've been telling him he needs to be more aggressive. He just needs to be himself. But that's not my job. That's the coach's job." So like saying exactly what you think, but like just framing it with, "But that's not my job," just to make it sound safe. Yeah. So
that's not great.
So even though like people are talking about how bad it is in Brooklyn right now, this Philly thing could very much boil over the weekend. So be on the watch out for that, because Doc Rivers could become the first coach to blow a 3-0 lead.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, if there's anyone that would do it, it's Doc, because I love Doc Rivers, but Rivers,
it's him.
Never give him a playoff lead. Never.
No.
I mean, quite frankly, a deficit's not much better for him. So
just about anything. Like he's one of those coaches where it's just like, yeah, he's pretty good until he gets in playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, man.
But no, it is a crazy set of stances we found here in the playoffs. But with the Nets too, it's just like the Ben Simmons situation continues to be a complete fucking joke. Which is just even more hilarious the longer that this goes. Like, Kevin Durant pretty much just going MIA during the entire 4 games. Like, it's just kind of hilarious. Like, it's kind of all the shit that I've been talking about this team for a while now, just kind of finally happening, because it's so easy. Like during the regular season, everyone's like, "Oh my God, Kevin Durant is the greatest, pure blah, 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 blah." Everyone sucks his dick during the regular season. They act like he's Jordan. But the second that the playoffs show up, I feel like all of a sudden it's like, well, he went really MIA the last couple of games. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Right. So here's a couple things, because I think it goes deeper than that. Now, KD in Game 3, like I have never seen Kevin Durant that timid to shoot the ball in my entire life. That man looked lost out there, and he pretty much admitted as such in like the post game presser. Anytime Bruce Brown shoots 8 more shots in a playoff game than you, that's a problem. Bruce Brown should not be shooting 20 shots in a playoff game, and Kevin Durant should not be shooting only 11. On top of that, Steve Nash, little over his head right now. He faced Ime Udoka, who, even though he's a first-year head coach, very experienced. He's from the He's from the Greg Popovich coaching tree. He actually was almost who the Pistons hired back when we hired Dwayne Casey. And so, like, the guy is very well respected, really good coach. But the other thing is this Boston team is just so well-rounded. They just have a lot of long, versatile defenders that can also shoot the three. Jason Tatum's playing the best basketball of his life. Jaylen Brown, people were talking about, well, Kyrie during Ramadan. Jaylen Brown was fasting too. Right. No one brought it up. No one cared. Jaylen Brown was fasting for Ramadan. So, like, it's one of those things where, like, I think the other thing too, I think it's almost like, and people don't want to say this, but like, I think it's a passing of the guard. I think we're like officially seeing Jason Tatum joining the upper echelon. And like, I think like people are talking about whether or not Jason Tatum's a top 10 player right now. I think we should be talking about whether or not he's a top 5 player, because he's that good.
Yeah, in the current NBA, yes. Like, and honestly, this is kind of why, and like that temperament when it comes to Kevin Durant is in a lot of ways why I have never had him in my, top 10 greatest NBA players of all time, because some people would consider him and put him up there and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's just 10 players in NBA history that I think of that I have significantly more respect for and trust significantly more than I do Kevin Durant. And it just is what it is. Like, yeah, is he a great and talented and pure scorer? Yes, he is. But when it comes to when you need Kevin Durant, I feel like he just comes up short. Not every time, obviously, but he comes up short more often than not. And I just feel like that's the kind of thing that sets him apart from this greatest of all times conversation, is that this isn't the first time we've had this conversation about Kevin Durant.
Yeah. So I am a big Kevin Durant fan. And I personally think some of the criticism has gone like too far in the opposite way. I think it's been like, all right, guys, like, it's like, I get like he hasn't had a good series, but like, let's be honest about who he really is. Also, I apologize. I work social media. I'm not paying attention.
No, you're good. You're
good.
That
are listening. Like, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, he's still one of the greatest players in the world, and people don't talk about, look at Kyrie's numbers during this series. And that's really where I want to go. Who deserves the most blame? Who deserves the most accountability? How about the guy that only played 29 games for the Nets this season? How about the guy that sees himself, he literally said after the game that him and Kevin Durant are helping manage the franchise. Like, that's news to me, because turns out you haven't played more than 60 games 6 out of your 11 seasons. Literally,
and also, if you're managing the franchise, you're doing a really bad job.
Yup. So it's like, dude, like, I understand that, like, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're a great player, you're super talented. It's really like, oh, well, like, he really is a great player. It's like, yeah, no one disputes that. But it's like, bro, why can't you show up? Like, just show up. That's the first step.
Yep.
Because even when he's there, like, he's only playing one end of the court right now, too. He was a liability on the defensive end. When in his time in Boston, there were times where he surprisingly looked really effective on that end. So I just, it's all around failure. All around. Everyone deserves it.
From top to bottom, everything about this experience has failed, or experiment has failed. And I'm very happy about that, because I did not want this to set a precedent. And it's been spectacular to watch these two never figure it out. And then they tried to bolster it by bringing in Harden, and that made it worse. And now they somehow thought that bringing in Ben Simmons would sort of resolve that. And that's literally done nothing thus far, because the guy is apparently out forever. I mean, he's like Jacoby Ellsbury. He's apparently never going to be healthy again.
The reports that we got today from
Here
Shams,
we fucking go.
Just about how he was like, yeah, it might have something to do. It might have something to do with the mental stuff. The mental stuff could be triggering back pain. It's like
crazy.
It's like, and they still want to support their guy, which is the right call. But like, man, you gotta at least show up. Like, and that's the thing is now, like, next year, you better be ready day one, man. Like, and yes. Like, I hope, and here's the thing, I take mental health super seriously, quite frankly. I can't imagine the embarrassment, the depression, the things that millions of people, literally tens of millions of people, calling you a pussy, calling you a bitch, like literally looking at you as a weak person and looking at what you've done and making character judgments and like death threats and all that. Like, I can only imagine the litany of stuff that came with that. And I'm empathetic to that. However,
to a degree, but yes.
However, you're not the only one in the league that's dealing with it. And in fact, you're actually being compensated accordingly because he got the max rookie extension. So it's
and he brings a lot of it on himself is the other part of it.
Yeah. Well, like,
he makes it so much worse on himself. Like, he it's he kind of fits perfectly actually with the Nets, because it's the same shit with like Kyrie, where it's like you kind of make yourself the victim and then you go, I can't believe who's doing this. Like it's almost literally the meme that everyone posts with the dude in the banana suit from what's that show called?
The guy in the bananas. God dang it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I do, but I don't, and I'm mad at myself.
You know, because it's that show that I haven't fucking seen yet, but you always tell me to.
Is it I think you should leave. It's the guy in the hot dog suit.
Yeah. Or hot dog suit. Hot dog suit.
He's
That's
like,
what it is, the hot
we're
dog.
all trying to look for who's responsible.
Yes, exactly. It's literally that, man. And that's like the whole team. It's hilarious. It's like, oh, why isn't this working? It's like, well, you hired a guy who's not a coach to be your coach. You've got Kevin Durant, who, again, I'm not saying that because of one series, he's now like a totally buns player historically, right? That's crazy. Yeah. What I am saying, though, is yes, on paper and statistically, he is one of the greats or whatever. But that doesn't matter because stats don't tell everything.
They don't.
And the biggest problem with him is that his stats pad him so well to make him seem so great, but when it matters, he's just almost never there. And it's the same thing opposite wise for, you know, we're going to bring it to baseball here, but Derek Jeter. Like when you look at his stats, you'd be like, why the hell does anyone remember this guy? But if you were alive and watching it and experiencing Derek Jeter, you'd be like, oh, well, no shit. People talk about him because of literally every time you needed something.
Right.
He was there.
Right.
Every fucking time.
Right.
And Kevin Durant does not have that. And Kyrie similarly kind of doesn't have that. And Kyrie makes it even worse by constantly running his mouth or having this thing going on or that thing going on. And everything's, you know, you're just too stupid to understand. I've got a grand master plan. I'm like, well, what's your master plan? Sitting on the couch? Because that's where you're at now. So like, maybe I'm clueless.
So here's the piece of it that I find really interesting that I don't think we're really that like, the only person I've really heard bring this up was Stephen A. Smith, funny enough. And like, you know, like, listen, Stephen A. Smith, you can say what he wants, but when it comes to the game of basketball, he knows what he's talking about. He just does.
It's like the only time he usually has a good take because he does know what he's talking about for the most part. Sometimes he says some wild shit, but he gets it.
What's going to happen when the correct collective bargaining agreement comes back around next? And teams are going to look at what Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving have done, and there's going to be a pay for play clause in the next collective bargaining agreement. And if that's the case, it's going to be because of guys like Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving. I mean, right now, like franchises, like they're terrified. On the other thing that these guys can also just force their way out of situations when they have multiple years left on a contract, something that both Kyrie and Ben Simmons and James Harden have done. So, you know, it's like one of those things where like, you know, like say what you will about like Kevin Durant and like people criticizing him. He showed up every day. And when he was healthy, he worked his ass off. He played like true. He played like 40 plus minutes. And I think the other thing, he just looked gassed because like literally he came back from injury and literally played like 40 minutes the entire stretch of the season just so that they could even make it to the play-in. Like not even just to like get to the playoffs, to make it to the play-in. So the signs were there, man. This team was never once looked like a championship team. And
that's why I bet against them.
Well, and here's the other thing. People talking about how the regular season doesn't matter. Really? Because the Boston Celtics became the Boston Celtics because of the regular season. Because of the trials that they had, learning to play together, and it was in January when this team picked it up and really started to turn it around. The regular season means a lot. It does. Because you're practicing, you're learning to play together, and you're ultimately also setting yourself up in position for the postseason so that you don't have to have road playoff games to start. Like, you know, that like those kinds of things that can, you know, make it pretty damn hard. I don't know. Maybe another thing that made it a little bit more difficult for Brooklyn, having to play Boston in the first round. That might make it a little bit tougher.
Absolutely. Sean, you're hitting on something that is, I mean, thank you. Because it's honestly, there's a couple of points here that I feel like are so important or not talked about quite nearly enough. Number one, How long have they both been in Brooklyn? Has it been 3 seasons or 4 seasons now?
They have
It's been 4.
So they've been in Brooklyn for 3 years. However, Kevin Durant was out the first year. So really Kevin Durant's only played 2 years. However, Kyrie, even his first year, he got like an injury, and then he also decided to not go to the bubble. So he only played like 20 some games his first year for them too.
Gotcha. So but when did they like sign there? Like even if they were hurt or out or whatever.
Summer of 2019.
29. Okay. But that's what I'm saying. And they have collectively since 2019 not played an entire season's worth across all, if you take all the years together so far. If you add every game they played together over 3 years, 4 years, they haven't played a full season together. How is that possible? How do you spend 4 years on a team together and not spend one worth?
We only got like 20 games of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. Total. Like, those guys were together for like over a year. They hardly played together. When they did, they were damn good. But like,
yes.
But like, that's the other thing. Would James Harden still be in Brooklyn if Kyrie Irving just got the damn shot? And everyone was talking about, eventually he'll go away, or eventually he'll get the shot, or like this will go away by the playoffs and it'll be fine. It won't be a big deal. We'll forget this even happened. That had ramifications. That shook the culture of that team. And they never recovered.
Very true. And it's a similar thing. I'm going to bring this to their fellow Yes Network partner, the New York Yankees, because it was a big storyline of like Aaron Judge had not gotten the shot. And, this is a pretty important season for a lot of teams, and certainly for the Yankees, and certainly for Aaron Judge, who's going to be a free agent next year. And there was a lot of talk about, one of their biggest division rivals is now finally playing in Canada again, being the Toronto Blue Jays. And it's been reported that every Yankee is now vaccinated, including Aaron Judge. And so that completely gets rid of that narrative. It clears it up, and now they can just focus on baseball and play great. The other part, and this is another thing about that regular season stuff, is that like one of the problems that the Yankees have had is it's just like, they punt a lot of games and they kind of act like the regular season doesn't matter. And they're like, well, once we make it, it doesn't matter because we have such a great lineup. Well, our lineup is so good that the playoffs will be a cakewalk in the beginning, so it won't matter anyways. And then they lost a wild card game last year on the road in Boston. And it's like Boston again, which is hilarious. It's just like, there's you could have avoided this so easily. Like, they act like their lineup is invincible, and it's just not. And no matter how invincible your team is, the other thing is kind of like you mentioned, when you don't have that consistent chemistry, there's nothing that you can't build on that. Like, imagine if Scottie Pippen and Jordan and, whoever, right? It had played for 4 seasons on the same team, but had only played like a half a season's worth across that whole thing. Like, there's no fucking way that they would have been the Bulls that they were. There's just literally no chance.
What do the Brooklyn Nets and the Detroit Pistons have in common from this past season? They both had about $30 million of dead salary cap almost the entire time. Because when Kyrie was out at first, he couldn't play. And that money sat in the books. And they couldn't spend it. They couldn't make their team better. And then he can play part-time. But then they trade James Harden, and they bring in Ben Simmons. And then that's $30 in dead cap because he never played a game for you. He never even played a minute. So like, this team, no one talks about that. They had $30 million of dead salary cap all year long. So like, they were truly strapped.
The thing I was going to say that they have in common is Blake Griffin, but I guess that's another story.
Well, funny enough, the dead money is Blake Griffin, so they both have dead money.
They do
Blake
both.
Griffin, yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, they do. They do both pay Blake Griffin to do nothing for them.
Literally. It's that's interesting too, because I guess I didn't entirely understand how the cap system worked for basketball, because I know that in hockey, It's kind of the running joke that you can kind of manipulate the cap however you want as long as the guy's injured.
Right.
Although I guess Kyrie wasn't injured, so maybe is it if someone's injured, do they still count towards the cap?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's generally speaking, there's like for like if there's like an injury, they have exceptions and stuff like that.
Okay.
There's certain extent like exceptions you can sign, but like since Kyrie technically wasn't injured, he wasn't under that exception. And then I think Ben Simmons, I think just since he wasn't like shut down for the year, since like he was kind of like day to day, kind of like as it went,
Gotcha.
there wasn't really an exception for that either. It's really for like let's say like a player like tears their ACL and is out for the year. I think
then they would
like,
make an exception, maybe.
I think there's some form of injury. Like there's like the Cavaliers. They have like a trade exception for like they had a trade exception for Ricky Rubio in their salary cap because he tore his ACL. So like,
yeah, I was just wondering that because I know that in hockey, a lot of teams have been taking advantage of this of how if a guy's injured, it doesn't actually even matter how long he's injured. If they're placed on the IL, then automatically they don't count towards the salary cap, which is hilarious and super manipulative because, teams like the Golden Knights have maybe done the worst job I've ever seen it at trying to manipulate this. In fact, all they've done is completely fucked themselves 6 ways from Sunday and pretty much most likely going to miss the playoffs. Tonight, we will find out. Tonight, if they lose to the Dallas Stars, you can pretty much kiss the playoffs goodbye. If they win, then they have a decent chance, but it's basically a playoff game tonight. It really is with only 3 games to go. But I mean, famously, the Lightning were able to do it where it was just like, oh, they're way over the salary cap, but 2 of their biggest players were on the IL. And so then it was just like, oh, it doesn't matter. And then as soon as they hit the playoffs, then the salary cap doesn't count, which is hilarious and mind boggling because then those guys were able to come back and they were way over the salary cap. And everyone was just like, whatever.
No
worries. The NHL might need to fix that. NHL might need to fix that.
Yeah.
But no, that is very interesting. And no one does talk about that to your point. Like the Nets are just sitting around with a guy who, I mean, what other option do they have, though? Because they basically sold the farm for that cow, essentially. And so now it's just kind of like, well, what the fuck do we do? Like, that the Nets front office on some level is definitely been in cold sweats every night for like 4 years because they thought that this was a slam dunk, easy way to not only win one championship, but maybe even win a couple. And now it's starting to look like they might not win a playoff series as a team. And the clock is really starting to run out for this whole charade that they went on. And it's so crazy because it's like, you look at they made one of the most infamously horrendous trades in basketball history with the Boston Celtics. And it kind of fucked the Nets for a long time.
This was like the big story when Kevin Durant and Kyrie came in was how as a franchise and like this is something like people don't talk about either. Like people forget the year before they brought in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they were known for how much young talent they had. And they were building like a program. They had D'Angelo Russell, they had Jared Allen, they had Karis LeVert, they had like all these guys who could really play basketball. And then, and the other thing, they had Joe Harris, who's injured too, like other key players. Like it was, there's at a certain point, there's so many factors going against you that like, you can't just say, oh, well, they have Kevin Durant. So like, he's just going to go do Kevin Durant things. Cause like,
they're the same thing as the Lakers at this point with LeBron James. It's just like you have one guy and then you're just like, I don't know, I guess he'll make up the mistakes. And I'm like, no.
Well, and it's like
he won't.
Well, and it's like we've seen with literally every superstar. Like we learn at a certain point you can't do it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like that was the thing. It's like it was just kind of Kevin Durant ball because like they needed him to because they just didn't have a roster. So they, it was one of those things where like it was one of the closest sweeps as far as like how many points they lost per game. Every game was within single digits. They lost with like by 7 points, but like it didn't feel close towards the end.
Exactly.
Like you knew, like it was like, all right, I've seen this song and dance 2 or 3 times before. This team's going home. Like I had no faith they were going to win game 4. They looked checked out. Even
at no point this series did you feel like, oh yeah, they'll probably win a game or 2. Like you just kind of knew immediately, like, oh Jesus, this team's fucked.
And so now, Kyrie Irving going into the summer has a player option that he is more than likely going to opt out of, and Kyrie Irving is up for a 5-year, $230 million extension. And the Brooklyn Nets might have to pay it. Because if Kevin Durant tells them to pay it, what do you do?
Well, that's just it. Like,
well, like,
to my point with the trade,
for 5 years though, like, why?
Well, that's just it. Like, it's so crazy because this was supposed to be the thing that made up for that legendary bad trade with the Celtics. This was supposed to be the thing to be like, you know what? We messed up in the past, but now we're going all in and we're going to give you the championship you deserve. And they somehow basically did the same thing. Basically, they got a bunch of guys who are clearly not what they either A, used to be, or B, what you thought they would be. And you sold everything to do it. And now you're going to have another 10, 15 years of like scary nonsense, of like, oh God, what's happening? Because they have no draft capital that I'm aware of. And they have no young talent basically. And now they're just kind of like, well,
right. Yeah, exactly. Now they're just going to be in this situation where, really all they can hope to do is like make as many trades as they can over the summer. Like really try and reshape and reform this roster, figure out what they're going to do. You
can't sign that contract.
Yeah, you got to hope that
you can't sign that because it's like you're just going to do this shit again.
You're handcuffing
yourself. Fucking kidding me?
That's
right. And it's like I get it. Like, oh well, we got to do what Kevin Durant says on some level because that's the bed. Like that's the bed you've made. But at the same time, it's like why?
Right. Well,
it didn't work.
Well, almost even at a certain point, it's just like at a certain point, dude, it's just addition by subtraction. And it's like I understand that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant love playing together. I understand that.
I don't understand why either.
Well, it's just because of their friendship. That's really it. Like it's like on Kyrie's end, everything's good. Even after the post game, he was like, yeah, I felt there were points of the season where I felt like I was letting the team down, and like it felt like it was like a distraction at times. And it's like,
yeah, no shit, asshole.
Every day of the week, every day. Like,
dude, that's just it. That's what I don't get. Like how
he makes Antonio Brown look manageable.
Sometimes. Yeah, and here honestly, here's my thing. Like I understand from his perspective how he thinks, whatever, but like Kevin Durant, and knowing his personality, whether he's friends or not with him, like how is he putting up with this bullshit at this point? Like I don't get it. Like how is Kevin Durant not just like, listen, man, don't pick up that option for the love of God?
Well, here's the other thing. Like Kevin Durant, like and I think where you can really make the criticisms, it's to me, I don't think it's like him as a player. Like as far as like his basketball skill and what he can do on a basketball court, I don't think that can be questioned. I think it's always been the thing with Kevin Durant that we always come back to, and it's his leadership abilities. It's him.
Yep.
It's him being the number one guy on a team. It's him taking the charge and having being the lead guy, being the vocal leader, being the guy that champions the guys around him and rallies the troops.
That's why I can't put him in my top, 10 greatest of all times, because I cannot say the same about the guys in my top, like Jordan, LeBron, even on some level, Shaquille O'Neal, Magic Johnson, Kobe.
LeBron ran as much as I shit on LeBron, like all jokes aside, the man literally ran an entire conference for like over a decade.
Right.
Like literally, like it wasn't like, okay, like who's going to make it to the finals out of the East? It's who's LeBron going to beat to get to the finals out of the East.
Right. No, it's crazy. Like there's certain guys, like when you think of your top 10, you think of guys that you would never question. You would never question Jordan or LeBron or Kobe or Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant. Like these are guys that you're just not going to question. Like when you put them on a basketball court and it's like, hey, now or never, you need to be on. Those guys aren't going to fuck it up. And these two love to fuck it up.
Yep, 100%.
And that's just all there is to it, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of fucking it up, let us go over to one Phoenix Suns, who are now tied inexplicably against the New Orleans Pelicans.
Well, that one's
2-2.
Well, that one's a little more understandable. And the reason why is because Devin Booker's out with his hamstring injury.
Correct.
And then at that point, once Devin Booker's out, all bets are off, because now you're just going off of who has more who has the better players on their roster. You know, who are the most talented players in this series? Both of them, you can make the argument, are on the New Orleans Pelicans. It's Brandon Ingram, who has been freaking insane, who's literally looked like the closest thing to Kevin Durant as far as how he plays basketball. Like, the guys over this series been nuts. And then they have CJ McCollum too, who can go out there.
Oh yeah.
So like,
I completely forgot he was a Pelican.
So like, they're not a scrub team. Like, this isn't like fucking it up where like Phoenix is just like fumbling the bag. It's like literally at the worst time they lost Devin Booker, and now they're like clawing to stay in the race until he comes back in. And like
that is totally fair.
So like, and the other thing is like Chris Paul is like, you know, he's a damn good player, but like, he's 36. He can't be the number one option for your team in the playoffs on a night-to-night basis and give you 40 minutes of like just consistent scoring. Cause like, he just can't.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen. Not at his age now.
Yeah. He can go out there and he can still give you amazing basketball, but like,
oh sure. It
fits far better as like that guy. It fits far better when he's setting up Devin Booker or when he's setting up DeAndre Ayton. And like, so like, it's one of those things where in my opinion, I still see Phoenix advancing. I still think they're the better team.
I do too.
But it's one of those things where, you know, there was only one team that was swept in the first round this year. And so
it is wild that we've gotten to this point though, of the fact that the Pelicans are in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is
the
a
Zionless
strange
Pelicans.
yes, it is a strange turn of events because no one expected that. But I guess the question that I have for you a little bit is now obviously they're not fumbling the bag, and it's a very different situation than the Nets. Obviously I know that,
you can see that. Yeah, for sure.
But I must question the fact of we just got done talking forever about how one guy can't, make the team and this and that, whatever. If the Phoenix Suns were supposed to be this be-all, end-all fucking greatest team since the 96 Bulls, basically, is the way people have talked about them all season long, and then one guy goes out and now the team completely crumbles and could potentially lose to the fucking Pelicans. Like, no offense, because they do have good players. Like you just said, they do have good players. But for fuck's sake, the Pelicans are not a championship team this year. No fucking way. Like, come on.
Yeah, well, it's... So the tricky thing is it all comes down to how your roster's composed, right?
Right.
You have, like for example, like last year when Kawhi tore his ACL, right? You still have Paul George and then like a ton of other guys, right? And so it's all about like the type of star or like the guy that goes down, right? So Devin Booker was MVP level this year. He was insane. And
future Detroit Piston, can't wait.
Oh yeah, future Piston, Grand Rapids native. Shout out D-Book. But please come home.
please, God.
Yeah,
I would cry.
No, but I would way more than cry. Yeah, I think the thing is that like when you lose that kind of guy, and then you go down to the roster, because it's like the thing that worked so well with that team is everyone plays their role to perfection, right? Like Chris Paul is the point guard you need for a championship team. DeAndre Ayton is the center that you need for a championship team. Those are your other two those are your other two top players, right? And then you have a ton of guys who can defend really well, who can shoot the ball well, some guys who can score if need be, but this team was built around the Devin Booker, Chris Paul offense. So
that's true.
So when you look at the composition, because it's obviously when you look at that, it's oh, well, what the fuck? How is this even a series? It's once you certain teams, it's you take that one little cog out of the engine and it all just falls apart, right? And
it's the successful version of the Nets.
Exactly. Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
This is what the Nets should have been, and they just straight up aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's they should have been good, but oh, well, if they had Ben Simmons, this could be different. But it's everyone knows what happened if Ben Simmons is on the court. It would have been the exact same damn thing. But
if not worse.
Yeah.
Because I think he's a liability, to be honest, at this point in his career.
Well,
we'll see. I think that he's been so bogged down in this mental whatever the fuck that I don't trust him as a player.
I understand that. I understand, and that's valid, man, because he really mentally, when you are afraid to, like, because right now it feels like he's afraid to step on the court.
Yep.
And that's a problem. Like that is a big problem. And so he's just gotta, at the end of the day, man, you just got to get back to playing basketball. And like and that's why I really think sitting out the regular season was such a big mistake, because those, like, when he was talking about coming back in game 4, it's like, dude,
the fuck are you talking about?
Well, like, here's the thing, like let's be practical, right? Let me get this straight.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who last time we saw him on the playoff stage shrunk, passed it away. Like I'm not even saying that. Like, I'm not even saying that to be funny. He shrunk.
No, it's 100% true. He was more timid than Kevin Durant was.
Yeah, like he shrunk. And ask that guy to come back in after missing so much time.
In an offense he's never played in.
Yeah, a team he's never played in, guys he's never played with, and say, hey, go out there and play some game. Because like, we never even heard if he played 5-on-5 in practice.
Right.
So like, it's like, to go from like not even doing 5-on-5, not even getting reps with guys in practice, and you want to come out and play in a playoff game? That was never going to happen.
And if it did, it really never made any goddamn sense, because I was just, you literally cannot, series on the line, game 4, trying to not get swept. You cannot just suddenly come in and be like, hey guys, I'm the new dude who's been sitting out for fucking forever. And I've never played with any of you guys. And but I'm going to just suddenly show up and be Ben Simmons. Like, that's just, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
That was just never, ever going to work. Even when he was Ben Simmons, like you said, in the playoffs, he just disappeared. So, I mean, like, what the fuck are we talking about? Mm-hmm. But Sean, the playoffs as a whole, at this point, I think my recalibrated Final Four will be the Suns, will be the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors will beat the Suns, and they will go to the championship round.
It's hard to not think that right now, man, because holy, that team, man. Jordan Poole. Ooh, Steph Curry genuinely might never start again, which is crazy to think. Like, he might not be a regular starter ever again. Jordan Poole might be starting over him, which is crazy.
I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet, because Steph Curry is the Jordan of our time, but we'll see. We'll see.
Like, I'm not saying Poole's better. I'm saying the lineup, the way that they've been running it, like Steph literally has been the sixth man for the Warriors the entire playoffs. Jordan Poole started over him, and like,
yeah,
and like, it's working.
It is. I totally see what you're saying. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that call yet, but yeah, no, it is working. It is.
Yeah.
And I see them going to the championship, and who knows, maybe that's what they run, and maybe that's what Steph's comfortable with at this point in his career. Who knows? Well, and he has had some injury and this and that, so who knows?
Well, even the fact that like a star like that is comfortable enough to come off the bench for a playoff series, even
why Steph's the greatest,
even after coming off of injury, like. Like, that's still commendable as hell, man. And like, that's the thing. Like, Steph is just the all around, like, he's the all around standard for what it means to be a star in the NBA. He you literally, like, him, like, even LeBron, like, you can't attack their character as far as like their home lives are they're exemplary, their charity work. They're both super active and dedicated to. They both are running like super successful businesses and production companies, and they have their shoe lines. Like, they're both just like
great family men.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they're.
I just look at Steph, man, and he really, like, I mean, he's everything I've ever wanted in an athlete, and he might be one of my favorites of all time. My favorite of all time will always be Dennis Rodman, just because I love how fucked up he is. That's just my guy. I fucking love Dennis Rodman. But Clay's always been very special to me, and Steph Curry, man. It's just, the guy is skills wise the greatest of all time at what he does.
Yep.
And just his unbelievable teammate ethic. Just the fact of he's just like, listen, this is what's good for the team. And hey, I'm still getting my minutes. I'm still doing my thing. I'm still Steph Curry. Like, that is something that nobody does. And it's like that, man, he's so cool for that, to be honest with you. But I think that they'll go to the championship this year at this point. As much as I want the Grizzlies to go for my own whatever, I don't see that happening. But on the other side, I see it being the Heat versus the Celtics. And as much as I desperately hope that the Heat can pull off an upset in that one, it is very hard for me to not pick the Boston Celtics to go against the Golden State Warriors. Have a pretty solid series that I think will end up being Boston in 5.
So not to completely contradict myself from earlier.
Okay.
But I still have a hard time, like, even though, like, I know this Boston Celtics team's for real, and I've seen what they've done, and I see how good they are, and, like, I would not want to face them in a playoff series.
Correct.
That Milwaukee-Boston series, dude. Oh, my God, that's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome.
Oh, my God.
I'm desperately hoping that the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Celtics, because then the Heat can definitely beat the Bucks. I am
no
not
chance in
afraid
hell.
of the Bucks.
No chance in hell. No chance.
You don't think so?
Not a chance in hell.
Oh, come on.
Giannis? Have you seen how he's been this playoff series, dude?
I have. The
Heat haven't even looked that dominant against the Hawks, man. I'm sorry. They've struggled with them at times. And the Hawks suck. This team is freaking hot dog water. Like, I want the Atlanta Hawks season to end more than anyone's, because I hate watching this team play organized basketball. But, like, even Miami, Miami's a good team, all around good, well constructed roster.
Defense is impeccable.
Defense is pretty good. But listen, man, you can be great defensively. You can only pray that Giannis Antetokounmpo is not going to get 30 in a game. You literally can only pray. And if
I know what you're saying.
And if Chris Middleton comes back and is healthy, if Drew Holiday's still there, this is still the team that won the finals last year, man. And they are looking, and they have, like, literally, they lost that one game against Chicago. Everyone's like, what's going on with this Bucks team? And then they just proceeded to stomp them into the ground. Like, literally make the Bulls look lifeless. They went to their home court and literally... Yeah,
I watched it, and it was not fun.
We don't need to retread that the entire time, man. Like,
I was at a B-dubs, sadly eating chicken and drinking a Miller Lite, feeling really, really bad watching that game.
And the only other teams that have looked that dominant have been the Celtics and the Warriors. Those are the only 3 teams these playoffs that have looked that dominant so far. Maybe Dallas game 5 when they just stomped the Jazz, but, like, I mean, even that's game 5.
It's the Jazz. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, it's the Jazz.
Gives a fuck. With potentially, we won't get too into this, but potentially the worst uniform change upcoming, if it's real. Potentially the worst uniforms in the history of sports.
If I'm Donovan Mitchell, I'm begging out of there.
If I'm a fan of the Utah Jazz, I'm burning all of my shit and picking a new team, because that's just fucking outrageous.
Like, begging out of there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I just look at it. I think personally that the Celtics are for sure going to make it to the championship, and I think that they're my championship favorite at this point. But if they were to be beaten by the Bucks, you disagree, but I think the Heat win, and I think that the Heat will lose to the Warriors in 5. That's the way that I look at the options as far as those two things.
Well, like, again, like, here's the thing. Here's the issue I really see for Miami when they face the Bucks. Who's gonna be the one to get them over the top offensively? Because Giannis could guard Jimmy Butler, almost take him out of the series entirely.
Yeah, that's not that hard to do on some level.
And then
I love Jimmy, but
then, like, Tyler Hero is your most reliable scoring option. And, like, I love Tyler Hero, but, like, if Tyler Hero is your most reliable scoring option outside of Jimmy Butler in a playoff series, And I know,
yeah, and so is
know,
Duncan Robinson,
yeah, and
kinda.
and Duncan Robinson, like he's looked good in the playoffs, but he looked really bad at the beginning of the season. He hasn't looked
And
quite
Lowry
himself.
is if he's healthy.
Yeah, but like, again, like, and like, Bam Adebayo's great, but like,
Yes, I
but
love
even then,
Bam.
all you have to do is just let Giannis rush at him like no tomorrow, get him in foul trouble, and he's not even in the game. Not a factor. And that's all you have to do. And like, and literally last year, this Milwaukee Bucks team swept the Miami Heat. I know Miami will come back and they'll be hungry and they want to face them and they want to do it, but like, this
a really
team,
good point.
like these teams just, in my opinion, when you look, like if like honestly, like talent, like yeah, Miami, great team. Like not disputing that, but like it's just a bad matchup.
It is frustrating,
matchup.
man, like as a Heat fan, because it's like I really deeply love a lot of the guys on this team, and I really love the roster. I love the way that they play for the most
I
part.
like it too, man. It's the
But
closest.
God damn, they are so fucking inconsistent in the way that they do things.
Well, it's because, well, you know what they're like? They're like the going to, like, I mean, and I'm not saying that they are the going to work Pistons. They're not on the top, like in my opinion,
right?
Like, but like as far as like they're the team that is a ton of really good players. There's not like
they're honestly very close, honestly, because I think very highly of a lot of those going to work Pistons. Like some of those guys, like at the time they weren't thought of as superstars, some of them, but like they kind of were. Like, I mean, if we're being realistic, like some of those guys were fucking superstars.
Like Ben Wallace is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
like
and nobody wants to admit it, or no one wanted to admit it at the time, but those guys were superstars, and I think so is Jimmy Butler. I think so is.
I think he's an all-star. Like the tough thing in the NBA world is like what you consider like a superstar, because like there in my opinion, like, because there's kind of like different ways you can go about it. In my opinion, and generally speaking, 24 guys are voted all-stars a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, in my opinion, I think the top 10 players in the world are superstars. Like if you're a top 10 player, you're a superstar.
That's fair.
And then like anything outside of that, you're an all-star. And so like, in my opinion, I have a hard time saying Jimmy Butler's a superstar. Now I'll say, damn good player. He's gonna play hard. He's gonna try to get everything you can out of you, and he's gonna fight like hell. Miami will get at least 1, maybe 2 games, but like, dude, like here's the thing, like we're right now where Giannis is in his career, like the trajectory he's hitting and like the greatness he's hitting is LeBron-esque of the last decade. Like I
Oh
like,
yeah, no, he
like,
looks and reminds. I mean, he's
like he's gotten to the point where like he doesn't have to kick it in full gear every time. Like he can go out there and he can put up 32 points and be putting out 70% effort.
Oh yeah. Like he does truly have a lot of the characteristics you look at when you start to compare people to Jordan or to LeBron or to Kareem even.
He's unstoppable on both ends of the court. Like defensively, he's a freaking machine. On the offensive end, like, dear God, I literally, the thought of taking a charge on Giannis Antetokounmpo literally gives me nightmares. Like,
he's been my Michael Jordan since I've become a basketball fan, to be honest with you, like, because of the fact of like, whenever I play 2K, and you know this very well, he's on every single team I ever play as every single time. Every time I start a franchise, the only player that I need to make sure is on that roster in some way, shape, or form is Giannis, because to me, he's Jordan. He just is.
Like, you know, it's not like he is literally a human cheat code.
Yes.
Like, he is literally the equivalent. Like, whenever I play 2K, I'm like, all right, don't use Giannis. Like, don't be that guy. Like, it's
correct.
Like,
it's just like Jordan back in the day if they had 2K, which they didn't really. But like, if they had our level of 2K back in the day, people would be furious with you for using Jordan. And the same thing with LeBron and his height, and obviously now Giannis. Like, there's certain guys that it's like, just don't fucking use that guy. Like, are you shitting me?
Right. 100%.
And he's one of those guys. He just is that guy in real life. It's crazy. By the way, the Heat currently, for those who want to pay attention to this at the same time and follow it, is that we are at halftime for the Miami Heat. They are up 54-42 over the Hawks. So we'll see how that goes.
They'll win tonight. It'll be the end of the series. Mm-hmm. And interestingly right now, another game that's also happening, Memphis, Minnesota. Memphis at home. Memphis is currently down 5.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah.
I don't love that. Not a huge fan of that. What I am going to go hate watch is the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh yeah.
The stupid fucking, I could bitch and complain. I swear to Christ, I could do a solo video of just me fucking bitching about this season for an hour and a half on the channel.
Maybe what we should do is next episode, like if it's like officially over, we can just roll out the red carpet and just give you like a segment where it's like, Robert,
please,
the floor is yours. And I'll just sit back.
Yes.
I'll do this with the microphone.
Please. Because there's definitely, that's going to need to happen if this team fucking gets eliminated, because it's not the playoffs yet, but like truly. So here's the situation that they're in right now is that they are trying to make a wild card, which is fucking embarrassing, as they say on Letterkenny, who I'm actually going to go see live on, is that already next Monday? Or is that the Monday after? I think it's the Monday after. I'm seeing Letterkenny live anyways.
There's Letterkenny live?
There is, apparently. I don't know. We bought the tickets a million years ago with our friends. It's not a problem.
Oh, your other friends you like better.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
yeah, that's correct.
Right.
That's the correct. Yes. I'm glad you understand.
You tell me all the time, so it's kind of.
Yeah, of course.
I got the message. It's like sometimes it's like, Robert, like it's almost like hurting my feelings like unnecessarily. It's like I get it. Like we're just bringing back up things. Like we don't got to do this.
I fucking love you. All right. So the current standings are this. Is that the only way that they're going to make the playoffs is that if they can be the second wild card team in the West. The team in their way is the Dallas Stars with 93 points. The Vegas Golden Knights have 90 points. If they beat Dallas tonight, then they're going to be in much better shape, hopefully, because then they play Chicago tomorrow and then St. Louis Friday. And if they could win those two games, and if Dallas were to lose one of their next games, then they would make it. But Dallas plays Arizona, who sucks, and Anaheim, who, I don't know how much they're going to care, but that might be a chance to, who knows. So either way, the point is that it's really truly going to come down to the wire at this point. And tonight is kind of in a way the opportunity for either team, because whoever wins this is going to kind of have the advantage, especially Dallas. If Dallas wins,
right, it's kind of
then
over.
Vegas is it's kind of fucked, because there's no way that Vegas would win out and Dallas is going to lose out. And then I don't even know where the points would be at. They might even be tied. And then I don't even know who the fuck owns the tiebreaker at that point. But like Vegas literally has to win tonight. And every game after this is a must win in a lot of ways. And they're kind of just hoping that Dallas stumbles as well.
Yeah.
Even after this, Dallas kind of needs to lose two games in a way to really make sure, just to really be sure and to not shit our shorts.
Right. Well, in that case, I'm excited to roll out the red carpet for you next week.
It's gonna fucking happen. This goddamn. I'll save it. Because man, I have so much to get off my chest about the goddamn Golden Knights.
I think I have a good thing we can end the show on.
Let's go for it.
Just as far as like a quick, like, did you see this thing? Did you see Wayne Gretzky almost ended up as a Detroit Red Wing? He was literally so close. So here's the thing. People don't know this. Kobe was almost a Detroit Piston. Literally, after 2004, like there was, at one point when Kobe wanted out, or like, at one point there was apparently a trade on the table that would send Kobe Bryant to the Detroit Pistons. So just like how the Pistons almost had Kobe, the Red Wings almost had Wayne Gretzky. Other than Gordie Howe, perhaps the other greatest one.
He is the great one. Here's the deal. Why the fuck does this always almost happen to Detroit? Every time. It's always almost.
Well, because
why does it never happen?
Yeah, well, it's like, well, then
God damn it, dude.
Yeah, I know. Well, then it's like, oh, like someone is like, it's like you almost pull the hammer and it's like, up. It is Detroit. we're not supposed to give
Literally.
you nice things. Like
it's like,
you silly
God,
goose.
dude, it's like, oh, Detroit, did you know that they almost got, like, let's say Tom Brady or some shit? Or like, oh, did you hear that they could have almost gotten Barry Bonds? Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, God damn it. But
Joey Gallo just got a homer, by the way. There's good news.
Did he really?
Yep.
Let's go,
Yep.
Gallo. He's been horrible this year.
They're currently up by 4. And
let's fucking go.
Anthony Rizzo got a 3-run homer earlier in the game. So
let's fucking go.
There we go. That's how you boost his well-being.
Let's fucking go.
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
It's against Baltimore, but we're supposed to destroy Baltimore. Let's fucking go. All right.
Well, brother, go hate watch that game.
God, I will absolutely go hate watch the stupid fucking Golden Knights. This team. If they make the playoffs, I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself, because I feel like, honestly, I might even be more pissed. Like,
yeah,
it's
you
just
would.
I don't even know what to do at this point, because
I kind of hope they lose out for your sake, so at the very least you can just move on and just enjoy the playoffs.
Just you wait. But Sean, yeah, no, I did see that, and God, I wish that we could have gotten the great one, because he kind of wasted the rest of his career with a bunch of teams that did absolutely nothing. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Yep.
Womp.
It is what it is. It could have happened.
We won a shitload of Stanley Cups anyways. We were amazing for years, and we're about to go on a run of winning some more, so who gives a fuck?
It's not like we found out Tom Brady was almost traded to the Lions. You know what I mean?
You almost got Gronk, and then he retired. So I didn't
want Gronk. So that worked out really well.
First of all, Gronk is the greatest tight end of all time, so you watch your fucking whore mouth.
Gronk's the greatest tight end of all time, but at the time he was fucking used parts. Like, he was just like tape. His elbow is literally like his brace is getting bigger and bigger, bro. Like, that shit literally looks like a transformer. Like, the way he goes.
I know what you're saying. I think that was the Patriots. Although at the time, who was your coach?
It was Matt Patricia. That's why.
Then he was fucked. Yeah, then he was fucked.
Yeah, Well, that's why he wasn't going to come to Detroit. He was like, "Well, I'm retired."
That's true. Yeah. He would have been fucked. If it was under Dan Campbell, he'd be okay. But yeah, he'd be fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Sean, it has been a great show.
This is a good ass episode.
It was a very good ass episode. I am extremely happy that the Nets are gone. Fuck the Nets. At this point, I am obviously all in on the Miami Heat, because the Chicago Bulls have no prayer, so that sucks. If the Heat get eliminated at any point, then I will likely be rooting for the Celtics, and if they're not in, then I don't care. So, in any case, we look forward to. Oh, isn't the NFL draft this weekend?
It's on Thursday. I'll be in Detroit for it.
Right on. My parents will be in Vegas where it's happening.
As of recording, we will have selected Aiden Hutchinson.
Yes, you will have.
Detroit. God, I hope he falls.
I do too. I hate Michigan with an absolute flaming passion, but God, do I really hope that he stays home. That would be really cool. That would be a really cool
He's
narrative.
A great player too, man. Like,
he's so good. He's what Detroit
we need. He's from the state. Like, it's just a win-win, man.
It's huge. That is the move that needs to happen, and that would be really, really cool. Yeah, my parents are going to be in Vegas, actually, where the draft is happening. And I think they're going to bring back some draft merch for me, so that'll be kind of cool. So go Raiders and all that kind of bullshit. We haven't had the Raider report, so I just had to throw their name out there. We will see you all next week, and until then,
the weirdest fucking outro in all of podcasts.
I love it.